Hi students, I'm Rebecca Terpstra, an adjunct instructor in the Interior Design and CAD departments at Arapahoe Community College. For those of you not in my fundamentals class, I look forward to having you in my SketchUp class later in the program. Today I will show you 3 different ways to perform fabric wrapping, which is how we display fabrics on physical design boards. This creates a professional looking view of how a fabric will lay on an object such as a sofa, which helps the client understand the look of the finished product better. The end result of fabric wrapping is that the front of the foam core should look as perfect as possible. We wrap fabrics around foam core. The color of the foam core does not usually matter unless working with a sheer fabric. In this instance, use a foam core that is in the same color family as your project in a lighter color, or wrap the foam core in a lighter solid fabric from the project, then wrap the sheer over the solid. Let's look at the supplies you'll need for fabric wrapping. You need foam core. Again, this can be any color except when working with a sheer. You can use black, white, yellow, etc. The most important thing to look for is the thickness. Use something that's 3/16 or 1/4 inch thick. A box cutter or X-Acto knife to cut the foam core. Extra blades are important as well. You need a self-healing cutting mat with grid and ruler. Fabric scissors or rotary scissors. I prefer rotary scissors for precise, even cutting. You will need a corkback ruler for precision cutting with rotary scissors. It helps keep the fabric on the cutting mat without sliding around. And we also use that corkback ruler to cut foam core. We need some duct tape, any color. Craft glue, such as tacky or Sobo glue, and spray adhesive. I like 3M brand number 77, it's the best. Please note it is a high odor spray, so be careful if you have lung issues or are pregnant, and definitely use it outdoors because it leaves a sticky residue on everything it touches. And then a glue gun as well. We need plastic knives or chopsticks. Presses down the hot glue without burning your fingers. Strong clips such as binder clips or chip clips, which are used to hold the glue while it cures for a few hours. You of course need your fabrics to wrap, and they should be ironed or pressed before you begin. You need pins with spherical heads or thumbtacks. Optional items are wet wipes to clean your tools and your fingers. I like this product called Stop Fraying. Sometimes after cutting fabric, the edges keep unraveling, and using this along the edge will actually stop the fabric from fraying. Clever name. You'll need a trash bag or paper, something to lay on your table or counter to protect it. It's nice to use Glue Gun to clean up adhesive spills. The adhesive eraser can also clean up spills, but it's best to save this during board assembling. You can erase all the glue that sticks to the front of your board. There are a couple of key things we look for when wrapping fabric around foam core. First, we need to determine the back of the fabric from the front. Some are easy because they're the same on both sides. However, if you cannot tell, look for the manufacturer's logo. It's usually on the front. Sometimes the back of the tag on the back of the fabric will give you information about the dimensions, cleaning, and the manufacturer's contact information. You can also tell by the weave on the back. You can actually see how the fibers are woven together, and you can feel that as well. Make sure that the pattern lays straight on the foam core. For instance, if there's a stripe that is slightly askew, like this one, which I'm not a fan of because the stripe kind of bows near the bottom, it presents poorly and is distracting to the other objects on your board. All we see is the misaligned piece. The third thing is that your corners or your edges should be crisp and taut rather than droopy. And finally, the back of the foam core can look terrible as long as the front looks great. There are quite a few different methods of wrapping fabric around foam core to achieve these key items, and all can be accomplished by using different types of adhesives. I will demonstrate 3 methods with 3 different adhesives today. So we're going to do the trim method using hot glue gun, the tape method using duct tape, and I chose a particularly plush and heavy piece of material for this one. And finally, the gift wrap method using tacky glue. We will use 2 different types of fabrics for these methods, so you can practice with light to medium weighted fabric and heavy weighted fabrics. This way you can see how they differ when wrapping. The most important thing to remember about fabric wrapping is this: it takes practice, skill, and patience. Those of you who are craftspeople or artsy already may have a wonderful end result the first time around. Others may need to practice a few times before achieving a professional looking end result. And there are others who need to practice a lot, like me. That's okay. Whatever your skill level, this is a good ability to know in the interior design industry. You might be in luck because I've not wrapped fabric in about 3 months, so you'll see some bad. Finally, if you have another idea or method for wrapping, you do not need to use these methods in the future. You can even create your own using parts of these with a variation of your own. Do what works for you. We need to cut our foam core, but before we do that, we must determine the size of foam core needed for the fabric. Do not cut anything, fabric or foam core, until you have figured this out. Determine this by laying out various FF&E pieces on the mat board you will adhere everything to. We adhere all of our FF&E, such as tile, paint chips, wrapped fabric, to a neutral colored mat board for displaying. Play around with different layout possibilities. Try at least 3 different layouts and take pictures of them so you can remember what you liked. Once you come up with the desired pattern on your mat board, then you can begin cutting your foam core and your fabric. So the second step is to cut your foam core slightly smaller than the desired size of the displayed fabric. Fabric adds bulk, with the heavier weight fabric adding more bulk than the lighter weight fabric. For instance, if I have determined I have a 4x4 heavy weighted fabric wrapped piece, I usually cut a piece of foam core that is 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. For this assignment, however, we will just cut everything at 4x4. Using a ruler and pencil, mark where you should cut your foam core. Make at least 2 tick marks as references, one on the horizontal and one on the vertical plane. Or you can use the ruler on the cutting mat, which is what I am doing here. Line up 1 tick mark on the foam core or ruler mark on the grid with the cutting mat and place your corkback ruler along that guide. Angle your box cutter or X-Acto knife if preferred. Do not hold your tool up and down. It should be held at an angle like so. Then lightly score the top layer of foam core. We lightly score the foam core to avoid rough edges, gouges, or flaking, and that's also why we angle it. Use at least 5 to 6 cuts to make sure you go through each layer, and continue lightly scoring until you can feel the cutting mat below or your foam core slides away. Here's an example of foam core that has rough edges and flaking. We do not want that. Rotate and set up your foam core and follow the steps to cut all sides of foam core that need to be cut. Sometimes you only need to cut 1 or 2 sides. Be precise as possible. Be patient also and practice a few times. For this exercise, cut at least 6 4-inch by 4-inch squares of foam core. All right, it is time to wrap. Before you begin, your fabric should be cut about 1 inch larger than each side of the foam core. The first method we will practice is the trim method, and we will use the hot glue gun. First thing to do is line up your fabric on your cutting mat so it is straight, upside down, and then spray one side of the foam core with spray adhesive and lay that side down in the middle of the fabric. Make sure it's aligned correctly so the pattern on the other side is not askew. Spraying the foam core before beginning helps keep the fabric in place when wrapping. though it does take a few minutes to set, which is good to make sure the foam core and fabric are aligned. Do not spray thin or sheer fabrics, otherwise the adhesive will bleed through the top and stick to other objects on your board, or dust or hair that fly through the air. Apply a thin bead of hot glue just at the edge of the foam core. Then use a chopstick or plastic knife to help smooth the fabric and glue it together. I try to avoid using my fingers because it hurts. Hot glue is great for heavier weight fabrics, but it does tend to bleed through thinner fabrics, so I don't recommend it in those situations. Hot glue is also very immediate, so make sure that you're ready to go because the glue will start to dry and no longer work its way through the fabric. Once you've smoothed it out, clip it into place with a binder clip or another heavyweight clip to keep it from moving or peeling off and working with the other edges. All right, let's do this again to the other side. We need to fold the fabric on this edge so the corner is puckered. We will trim and glue the corners once the edges are glued and clipped. Check the front. And once you're confident, apply a thin line of glue to this edge, keeping in mind the need to pucker the corner. Smooth it, and then set it with a clip. Once you have two sides glued and clipped, you can trim off the bulky corner. We trim away the excess fabric to help the foam core and fabric sample lay flush against the mat board. Otherwise it is raised slightly and does not look professional. You must be very careful and not trim too close to the corner, otherwise you will expose the foam core. With the excess trimmed away, we can fold in the corner. Add glue inside the fold against the fabric and a little in the corner to close it. And work it in with your chopstick or your plastic knife so that it's tight. Use your pins to really get that corner nice and tight, and then leave them there for a couple of hours to let the glue set. And of course, add more glue and pins if necessary. Keep double checking the front and adjust your corners and edges as necessary. All right, do this for the rest of the edges and corners, and let this sit for a couple hours before taking off the pins and the clips. The second method to practice is the tape method, and we're going to use duct tape. As with the first method, line the fabric with the grid upside down, spray one side of the foam core with spray adhesive, and center it inside your fabric. Cut or tear square or rectangular pieces of duct tape, smaller than the foam core. You will need approximately 8 pieces. The first thing to do is to fold in and tape all 4 corners. Take a corner of the fabric at a 45-degree angle and pull it in as tight as possible without distorting the edge of the foam core. You can also hot glue gun the corners underneath the tape area, which allows them to adhere to the edges better. Use a small square piece of duct tape and pull the fabric nice and tight so it's lined up with the foam core as well as the rest of the fabric. Press it down, making sure everything's good and tight, and of course check the front for alignment and good corners. Once all 4 corners are taped, it's time to work the edges in. Take a piece of tape and lay it underneath the fabric, then attach it to the fabric and pull that edge in tight. Make sure all the edges and corners are being worked in together to complete a straight line across. And you may have to use more tape to fix this. Push that tape down firmly. I found that the duct tape method works better with plush fabrics because there's a little bit more for the duct tape to hold onto. Before we can perfect the corners, we need to pull in another edge. Pull it in tight. And make sure to push down that duct tape really well. Check the front. Make sure it looks nice, and then also see where the edges need to be fixed. And they will need to be fixed, but it's really easy with the duct tape method. You just pull the corner tight and quickly apply duct tape and smooth it down. You need all 10 fingers for this. Also make sure the duct tape does not show on the edge or the front of the fabric. And then check the front and adjust if necessary. Looks good. Finish the other 2 edges and the rest of the corners. The final method is my favorite way, the gift wrap method. We will use craft glue. I'm going to use tacky glue for this method. I'm starting this process with a large print fabric, so I must determine which area of the fabric I should show on my small piece of foam core. I want to make sure that I get a little bit of each color in there. Nice balance, a nice rhythm to it. Once I've decided which area of the print to showcase, I will turn the fabric upside down and lightly mark with a pencil where the foam core should be placed. That will help me when I go to cut the fabric. Using my pencil marks, I'm going to cut the fabric down to a size big enough only to wrap around the foam core. As with the first two methods, line the fabric with the grid upside down. If using a heavier weight fabric, you can spray one side of the foam core with spray adhesive and center it inside your fabric, or in this case with my pencil marks. For the gift wrap method, we will fold the fabric over like wrapping a present, then glue under each major area. So we will begin on one side, draw a line of glue along the edge but not into the corners. This first edge will simply be folded over, such as with the back of a package. Smooth the glue down with your fingers or a plastic knife, and then secure with a clip. When working with craft glue, you have a little bit more time to adjust the fabric as the glue takes longer to dry. I actually like to let my glue sit overnight for extra confidence that it's ready to mount. And of course, we're going to check the front. On the next edge, we're going to fold in the fabric like wrapping a present, and we're actually folding in the corner of the fabric. Make sure that you're pulling in the edge and the corner taut with the foam core. So we're going to fold it in, and then we're going to glue inside that fold. And then I like to pin that corner to the edge of the foam core. The next corner can be a little tricky. Give yourself time to figure out how to fold and glue. I am opting to fold up the remainder of the edge and save my corner for the next rotation. So you can see I've put a line of glue on the edge, and then I'm doing my usual smoothing, and then I'll put a clip. Continue going around the square, wrapping your little fabric present, then add clips to the edges and pins in the corners. Don't forget to check the front as you're going along. I don't love this corner here because it's not tight. It has a bit of a ballooned look to it. Wish I would have worked it down more before the glue started to set. But this is a practice piece, so it can only get better from here. Continue going around your edges and your corners. Keep working it, keep checking the front. And once you have all of your pins and your clips in, go ahead and let this sit for about at least 4 hours, if not overnight. Like I said, letting it sit overnight really makes sure it's cured. And it's not going to come apart. Here are my 3 finished practice pieces, all using 3 methods as well as 3 different glues. The front of the trim and tape methods look great. The gift wrap method, however, does not look so good. I should have worked in those edges better. I am a bit rusty, so I will practice a few more times. You can see how the plush fabric of the tape method made the foam core bulkier, so it is larger than 4 inches by 4 inches. Keep this in mind when using different weights of fabrics. So final thoughts about fabric wrapping. A few points to remember for future assignments. With each assignment, be sure to leave yourself extra time to wait for the glue to dry, and also account for mistakes and do-overs. So thinking on those lines, be sure to have extra material to practice with first before wrapping your pieces for a design board. Again, frequently flip your foam core over to check for alignment and mistakes. And of course, be patient with yourself. Practice makes perfect, or at least presentable. Good luck and happy practicing!